Hello, this is Rory Scott, and you are watching Trash Talk. So for the month of October, it is my intention to release as many horror film reviews as I can, starting with ones that are most prominent in culture today, and then going back to just some ones I think that you'd enjoy. I'm going to try and binge record 3 or 4 tonight, and then release them staggered, giving myself a little bit of a head start. So if you notice that the setting, camera work, clothing is the same in the first couple, work with me. So here we go. For today, we are going to be reviewing the new 2017 adaptation of It, based upon the novel by Stephen King of the same name, made memorable by the television miniseries starring John Ritter, Tim Curry, and Seth Green. But let's dive into it. So I actually have a lot to say on this adaptation of It. A lot good and a lot bad. The way I'm going to frame this review is first by giving sort of a broad strokes review that doesn't give any spoilers away, and then I will notify you that spoilers are coming, and then I'll dive into it deep. I'm going to be judging this film both on how I think it works as a standalone film and how I think it represents the original source material, not the miniseries, the book. In fact, I'm going to try very hard to not compare the movie to the miniseries at all. There's going to be a few times where I slip up, but I'm trying my hardest not to compare the two, because it's really unfair to compare the two. They're completely different formats. But I digress, so let's do this. It 2017, written by Chase Palmer and originally Cary Fukunaga and directed by Andy Muschietti, follows a group of 7 children in the mid to late 80s known as the Losers Club as they struggle with the prepubescent strife of bullies, adults that don't understand them, and murderous child-hungry clowns. There are a few things off the bat that I can say I really enjoyed about this movie. The first and foremost is hands down the acting, both of Pennywise the Dancing Clown and of the Losers Club. I don't think of any of the central characters there's any performances that truly lacked or any performances that shunned the rest of them. I think by and large they were all on the same tier, and that allowed them to work off of each other seamlessly. It really was an ensemble cast film. It wasn't 1 or 2 highlights with a bunch of mediocres. The kids were absolutely believable and the clown was terrifying. Now I'm going to break away from my intentions a little bit because this is one of the situations in which it actually applies. It is worth noting that Bill Skarsgård's performance of the clown is very different from Tim Curry's performance. Comparing the 2 adaptations of Pennywise would be like comparing Heath Ledger's Joker to Jack Nicholson's Joker. They're just 2 completely different animals, and they shouldn't really be compared any further than that. Bill Skarsgård makes the very intelligent decision, in my opinion, to play Pennywise as more animal than human. Without getting into any spoilers just yet, it can be stated pretty easily that Pennywise the Clown actually isn't supposed to be human. And whether or not you want to call it something from outer space or a ghost or a demon, again, no spoilers, it's not human, it's inhuman. And Pennywise, in this version, definitely presents that very early on. Whenever you see a scene with Pennywise interacting, speaking with the kids, it sort of looks like an animal that learned how to be human from watching television. It's like humanity is its second language. His body posturing is very much like a corpse being puppeted by something else. Everything about him is incredibly monstrous, but not even in like a Freddy Krueger sense, where it was like a human that turned evil and then became something else. It's like this thing's starting point was from somewhere else. And it's sort of picking up on what it is to be human, but it hasn't even really gotten there yet. Having stated that none of the actors particularly stand out, I did absolutely love the way that they decided to portray the character Stanley Uris in this. I thought that they actually gave him focus, which is something that even the book struggled to do. They gave him enough focus to truly justify his actions. But again, I'll dive more into that in the spoiler section. Jumping past acting, I will say that the production value is very strong in this film. There's no point where you're looking at this movie saying, oh, this is under budgeted. They really allocated their funds appropriately. One of the things I didn't like so much was the cinematography. Now, when I say this, it's not because the cinematography wasn't well done. All the shots are clean and clear. They're fine. They're just uninspired. In a good, strong horror film, the camera work can play just as much a character in the tone of the film as any of the cast members. Be it classics like The Shining, or even modern takes like Rob Zombie's Devil's Rejects. Camera work can play a pivotal role in establishing the overall atmosphere of the film, and I felt that the camera work in this movie, as well as the color correcting, the white balancing, the contrast, everything about it was very standard, run-of-the-mill, theater release horror. Nothing that you wouldn't be able to see in, say, The Grudge or the remake of The Fog. There's nothing wrong with the camera work, but there's nothing about it that particularly catches you. And the same thing can be said about the soundtrack of this film. Again, very often in a horror film, the theme, the soundtrack, can be just as much a character to remember as the villain itself. Be it Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, the theme can play a big role. And comparing it to the 1990 miniseries, the theme for it was very prominent. It helped set the tone very well. In this movie, the musical score is just sort of underlying, menacing, single note tones. Every once in a while you'll get a little bit of a piano melody, but nothing that's going to stick in your head until you've heard it time and time again, really, other than the music that plays in the trailer. But again, even that's kind of uninspired. So I will say the same thing for the soundtrack. It's fine, but it's uninspired. There's a few pacing things that I didn't quite like about the movie, being that other than one or two scenes, the entire focus of the film is on the relationship between the Losers Club and Pennywise. We don't get too much light-hearted atmosphere out of the film. And for a story that is supposed to also be a coming-of-age story, I would have liked to see more interpersonal relationships between the characters and situations that didn't directly relate to them hunting down and finding Pennywise. The overall tone and mood of the film was constantly sort of pressed into a dark, moody corner because there wasn't any lightheartedness in these kids. You didn't really get the nostalgia of kids hanging out during summer vacation and having fun. Well, apart from one or two scenes, but they could have done more with that. I don't really think there's much more on the production of this film that I can say without going into spoilers. So now, here we are. Everybody pay attention. Spoiler alert. Going back to what I was talking about Bill Skarsgård's performance earlier, and this is just a quick thing. He did one thing that I think really helped establish him as an inhuman entity, and it was in the scene that we can see a little bit in the trailer where he's sort of puppeting the ghost of Georgie in the basement of the Denbros, and it ends with Pennywise popping out of the water and sort of chasing at Bill, like, and Bill runs up the stairs, and when he does that, Pennywise sort of misses grabbing him and his face hits the stairwell, and we get a nice close-up shot of Pennywise sort of looking up the stairs and then slunking back, and the way he does it, his face just sort of flops off the step, and it gives us this idea that Pennywise's head isn't really Pennywise's head, because when you get into the origin of Pennywise, you know, everything that we see is a disguise. Pennywise itself is actually sort of a sentient dimension of light. And so whenever we're seeing a physical representation of him, anything corporeal is a costume. So this body, the body of the clown, the appendage of the head is as insignificant as an appendage of a toe or a tail. It's just a body part that's there for us, not even for it. So I thought that that little bit worked really well. I also really like how throughout the movie, Bill Skarsgård's lazy eye was always fixed both on the subject that he's talking to or trying to scare and on the camera. So you could take one half of his face and see it looking that way, and take the other half and have it looking that way. It's brilliant. It sort of is Andy Muschietti's way of saying what scares you, because that's what it is at its core. It's a story about fear. So I absolutely loved Bill Skarsgård's performance, and a lot of people didn't, but I think that that's by and large because they had the expectation of Tim Curry's performance in their head going into it. And the two characters are just completely different. Going back towards Stanley Uris. So, and again, this is spoilers not only to this movie, but to everything around it. Anybody who's familiar with the original story knows that when the Losers Club grows up and they get the calls from Mike Hanlon, that Stanley Uris kills himself. He can't handle it. And the way they handled that in the miniseries is sort of by having Stanley Uris as a back character that doesn't really get much focus, other than always sort of being uncomfortable with the situation and objecting to it. He doesn't really have any sort of development. That way it's easier to kill him off. You don't really have to justify him as committing suicide. This version of Stan, as well as the version in the book, really point out that what scares Stan the most is that because all of this is happening, his notions of reality were wrong, and that's what Stan really can't handle. You know, in the book, the dead children, or in the movie, the lady in the painting, none of those are really what scares Stan at his core. What really scares Stan is the idea that there's no laws of reality. And that's why he ends up killing himself, because he remembers, and as an adult, he really just can't handle it. In this version of Stan, there was this sort of dark bitterness. The more that he was involved in this, the more he sort of hated all of his friends for challenging his notions of reality. And I thought that that was brilliant. A few things that I didn't like as far as character choices were concerned was that they took the role of exposition machine from Mike Hanlon and gave it to Ben Hanscom. Now yes, in the book, Ben Hanscom is a little bit of a bookworm. His first interaction with Pennywise in the book is directly after leaving the library. But Mike Hanlon's connection to Derry and his obsession with learning about Derry is a very important part to his character. And when you take away that part of his character and don't give it something else in its stead, he becomes sort of a background character. And unfortunately, I'd say if there was a background character, not performance, because he was acted very well, but if there's a background character in this movie, it is Mike Hanlon. He's sort of thrown in right before shit starts going south, and they don't even really do a good job of justifying him deciding to help them take on Pennywise, because they don't work with his character, with the group at all. They just have the Losers Club save him from Henry Bowers, and then he's just like, alright, here I am. Yeah, sure, I'll help you kill this child-eating clown. So that was a little bit unfortunate. Also, you know, Ben Hanscom already has his role in the group. He's already involved in the awkward triangle between himself, Beverly Marsh, and Stuttering Bill. So it wasn't necessary to give him that extra role of exposition machine. He already had a good role in the movie. I also feel that the character of Stuttering Bill wasn't as assertive and in control as his character is supposed to be in the book. Like, yes, he does take lead, but there's this like shy bashfulness to him where, like, if that version of Bill told me that I had to help him kill a murderous clown, I'd tell him to go fuck himself. He doesn't have that alpha presence about him that's necessary. Now getting into some real stuff that got on my nerves. One is that if you're familiar with any adaptation of this other than this film, you know that the Lucky Seven have a magical force around them, a mystical force, this sort of frequency that they all exist on that other kids don't exist on. It brings them together, and it's what gives them the power to fight back against Pennywise. It's what scares Pennywise about them, is that they have this frequency, and it's a frequency that's given to them by another cosmic entity. At first, in the book, they sort of establish that it's the turtle, which we get Easter eggs for in this movie. Although it doesn't actually show us the turtle, we definitely get Easter eggs of the turtle. But then later on, they talk about the possibility of it actually being gone, which is sort of Stephen King's equivalent to God itself, the almighty creator of everything in the macroverse, the high ruler of all. One way or another, there is this force that brings them together. And it's that force that gives them strength over Pennywise. And when we take away that force, as we did in the movie, when we have this final confrontation between these 7 kids and the clown, It really sort of strips away the power and the menace from the clown, that he can just be defeated by 7 preteens with sticks. They also really didn't give us enough of the kids playing together and having fun with one another. They show us the one scene of them diving off the waterfall and into the body of water and swimming and having a good time, but not even all the Lucky 7 was there. Mike Hanlon hadn't been introduced to the group, so again, he doesn't have any of those strong friendship connections with the group when shit starts going wrong. You know, I wanted to see them going to the movies together. I wanted to see them building the dam together. This is the kind of nostalgic coming-of-age stuff that adds heart to the story, and I kind of feel like that stuff was left on the sideline in this movie. It was very businesslike. Everything was serious. And my final big gripe about this movie, and it's one that people will either be totally okay with or people will be on my side with, it's the digital effects, the CGI in this movie. It's way too much. In my opinion, the most well-done CGI on the planet almost looks as good as practical effects. And I get, for some big action movies like Avengers and whatnot, there's really no way feasibly to do those kind of things practically. And you can argue that the direction that they took this movie, there were certain things that they wouldn't have been able to do practically. But the CGI wasn't believable to me. Whenever Pennywise's face transformed to make room for all the teeth, it looked like it cut to a cartoon. Especially when Pennywise's face comes down on Georgie's arm, it looks cartoonish. It doesn't look real at all. And then they do this sort of aura thing around Pennywise, where like it's sort of like the heat mirage on concrete coming off of him. And I get what that's supposed to be. I understand that the idea is that Pennywise is a reality-bending being, and that's sort of him bending reality. But it ended up just making Pennywise look superimposed in the image. It's really hard to suspend disbelief when you're dealing with special effects that don't work. Now sometimes it worked alright, but the majority of the time I felt disappointed by it. Another thing that really bothered me about this movie was the one-dimensional side villains, predominantly being Henry Bowers and Beverly Marsh's dad. In the book, they spend a lot of time showing that while both of these characters were no means perfect in the beginning, the influence of Pennywise drives them crazy and makes them evil. In the movie, they establish both of these guys as such pieces of shit at the beginning of the film that nothing that they do after that point seems out of character for them. Henry Bowers is such a sinister, evil bully from the very start of the story that killing his father and deciding to kill the Lucky 7 doesn't seem like something that Pennywise would need to influence him into doing. It just seems like the natural progression of his character to take. And making the decision to make Beverly Marsh's dad an outright pedophile, like straight up, they imply that he's already molested her before the movie even started. Making him do that makes the weird attack scene later on just seem like he's trying to rape her, and again, it doesn't seem like Pennywise influenced that at all. It takes away this really cool idea that Pennywise is corrupting anybody who doesn't have the purest of heart just by living in the town of Derry, which in itself is haunted by Pennywise's presence. All in all, I feel this version of it was very good. It got what was important about the original story from a horror perspective. Unfortunately, it did leave out a lot of the coming-of-age stuff that, in my opinion, was just as important to the story. But it's still a really good creature flick horror film. Ultimately, I can't wait to see the sequel. I want to see where they go with this. I want to see more. I really want to see the movie again. I mean, I left the movie pleasantly surprised because I didn't think it was going to be that good. And I left the movie saying, I can't wait until I can see this again. I want to see if there's more Easter eggs I didn't catch. I want to give it another go. So ultimately, I do recommend that everybody go and see this movie. It is a good film. I liked it a lot. I definitely have my gripes with it, but overall, I'd say that it's a good movie. I'd give it 80 out of 100. I hope you liked my review. There will be more coming up soon. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, share it if you agree. Argue with me in the comment section if you don't. Hope to see you soon. Thanks, have a great day.